Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and we are back with another episode charting the twists and turns of this crazy championship season. The Clarets midweek game away at Derby, the tails at the top of the table turned once more as Leeds won, Sheffield United drew, and Burnley drew. So it's as you were, except Leeds now top of the table, Burnley in second, and Leeds in third. Sheffield United in third. Who is going to keep the top of the table? Who is going to take that title? I'm joined by regular panellist Tom Whittaker, who's going to give us his views of that Derby game. And we're also joined by the best view in football, Dave Statman-Roberts, to look ahead to Friday night's game against Norwich City under those Turf Moor lights. So, listeners, buckle up. Let's go. Tom, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me, as always.
I'm sorry, were we interrupting something, sir? You were just like busy talking away. Okay, let's go. Come on, look lively, sir. You've got a podcast to do. Come on. Dave, and how are you? It feels like only yesterday I was talking to you.
Yeah, I'm very well. Been better if we could have snatched a win at Derby, but it's still tight at the top. We're with the last 5 games now, aren't we?
Yeah, it definitely is. Tom, let's kick off then, because we have got quite a lot to get through this episode. We're looking back at that point away at Derby on Tuesday night, and we're going to have to look ahead for a really important game against Norwich on Friday night at Turf Moor. So let's start with that point then away at Derby on Tuesday night. As a general overview, good point won or 2 points dropped?
I think before the game, you'd have been disappointed to drop points, but the way the match went, Derby were the better team. We were first 20 minutes we were on top. After that, Derby got a foothold in the game. Either side of half time, they really did have us under the cosh. Could have easily conceded right at the death as well. There's 2 free headers at the back post, and one of their lads has thankfully taken it off the other lad and put it wide. So we could have easily lost the game. If you'd have said to us before the Coventry game that we're going to get 4 points out of the next 2 games, Leeds are going to get 4 points out of the next 2 games, and Sheffield United are going to get none, given the fixtures that we all had, I think you'd have been delighted with that, really. And you know, it's still in our hands. We're still in that top 2 place. So given the way the game went, I think if Leeds had dropped points, it would have been perfect. Sheffield United losing means it's a point gained ultimately, and we didn't play well, so we can't complain.
Why didn't we play well? What was it for you about the performance that could have been improved?
We could have played it on grass instead of sand. That would have been a good start, I think.
That was not within our control, though. That was not our fault. Bad pitch.
No, absolutely. Well, Derby just made. I mean, we've played John Eustace teams twice already this season, and they've made it very difficult for us on both occasions. It's low margin stuff. It's very much the kind of job we used to do on teams when we were under Dyche in the Premier League. You know, it's just a lot of pressure on the ball, making it difficult to play, you know, football on the ground. As I say, the pitch didn't help that ball, so they pressed as well. Didn't let us settle on the ball at any point. They've got a lot of big lads. They're putting balls under the crossbar. So a lot of set pieces, free kicks, and throw-ins to deal with. Similar to the test we had at Coventry the last half an hour. And they're fighting for the lives. And you've seen, you know, Sheffield United going to Oxford and getting beat. I don't think any of the teams, you could maybe say Plymouth, but even they won, didn't they, on Saturday against our opponents tomorrow night. So I don't think any of the teams this season are really, really bad. None of them are cut adrift. They're all picking up points. None of them are, you know, getting battered. And they're all really scrapping for the lives. And I think any game that you play in, and I know that when, you know, if you look at Sheffield United and Leeds Runnings, they've still both got games against those kind of bottom 6, 8 teams to play. I think they're going to be difficult games. And every team down there, like I say, scrapping for their lives. And it might actually help us that we've got kind of mid-table teams who've got nothing to play for now, as opposed to playing any more teams from that bottom 6, 8 region. That's what I'm telling myself anyway. But yeah, Derby are on a good run of form. I know they got beat off Swansea last Saturday, but prior to that, they'd won 4 on the spin, and the home form is really good, especially you can tell playing on that pitch isn't going to benefit any opposition team that comes there, and especially like I said, to try and play football on the deck. I don't think we're really set up to kind of scrap and win headers and things like that. So yeah, I expected a difficult game, and it was. And yeah, like I said, I was pleased to get out of the point really in the end, considering the way the game went.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with you there, Tom. I agree with you about the mid-table size and trying not to avoiding those teams at the bottom who have got something left to play for. But surely the whole point that Sheffield United lost to Millwall, given that they're not in a dissimilar position to our opponents on Friday night, should that not be a real warning shot to us not to be complacent with those?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be complacent. I think the attitude's been really good. I think that's one. We're not always thrilling to watch. We're not always playing teams off the park, but I don't think we've kind of turned up and just expected to roll anyone over this season. I think we've scrapped and battled for every point we've earned, and that's you can't go 28 games unbeaten if you're complacent. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think Millwall are in a bit of a better position than Norwich. It's not just the fact that Millwall are a couple of points above them now in the table. I think they're also the form is so much better than Norwich's. If you look at their recent form, they really have, especially since the turn of the year, they've been really poor. I was just having a look at it the other day, and I think their away form, especially all season, has been really bad. And their recent form, as I say, since the turn of the year, is pretty poor. And I think it's not just the fact that if you look at Blackburn, for example, I think are they on the same points as Norwich? Or very similar.
Yes, they are.
They're only a couple of points back from Millwall. Yeah. If you said of Black, but would you say they've got any chance for the playoffs? No, because you look at their form and it's just it's nose out of a cliff, isn't it? I think it's a similar thing for Norwich. I think it's just the fact that they're not playing the best football of the season right now, and there's better teams out there. And I think I follow a couple of Norwich fans on Twitter, and they all kind of seem resigned to the fact that it's not going to be a top 6 season for them. So while we should be complacent, I think they aren't going to be a team who's turning up scrapping and thinking, if we can get a point here, it's a brilliant result that's really going to change our season. They need to win probably every game and hope that 3 or 4 teams above them at least kind of fall off a cliff. And I think they're realistic enough to know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's over for Norwich. I mean, they're 9 points behind the current team in 6th place at the moment. There's only 6 games left. It's, I think that's going to be a pretty tall ask for them. Dave, one of the things that we saw, just bringing you in, grab your opinion on this. One of the things that we did see, which unfortunately we didn't see an awful lot of, was an attempt by Scott Parker to change the formation and to go with 2 strikers up top, and a very rare occasion of seeing Lyle Foster come on with Zian Fleming. How much do you think we're going to need to rely on Scott Parker having the courage and the decisiveness to change formation in these critical last 6 games?
I think it's going to be a factor in there, and we know we've pretty much cemented a playoff place, but we need to really turn some of the ones we're getting as draws into wins. We've done that reasonably well in the last few games. It's the first draw with a while, a lot better than the earlier part of the run. So we can't complain too much. There's kind of maybe a practical mindset coming into it, thinking, well, yeah, we need to try and push the boat out and turn the draws into wins on games like that. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. Lyle Foster was only on the pitch 3 minutes. They say it's not quite as bad as they first suspected, but they're getting a second opinion. Whether he'll be involved again before the end of the season, we don't know. We have to bear in mind as well, for the last game of the season, he can't play because he's on loan from Millwall. Yeah,
so we're going to be potentially looking at having Ashley Barnes up front as a lone striker in a game at the end of the season, which we might need to win. Dave, I'm not loving that. I'm really not loving that.
We'll be up by then. Don't worry.
That's true. We'll be champions by then. What we're talking about. So just reiterating that point. Then, do you think? Obviously, you're right. We're starting to show some. Scott Barton's starting to show some signs of a more practical approach to these games. I guess the second part of that question is to follow up. Then, do you think he's got the ability to pull the trigger and make those changes in these next 6 games, or do you think he will revert to type and play it safe?
I think he's going to treat it on a game-by-game basis, but I think there will be in the back of his mind there will be, like the decision he made on Tuesday night, there's the possibility of doing that and doing it earlier in the game. So we have to wait and see how it goes on Friday. But I think, yeah, there's the way he's talking in the press conferences as well. I think that's a little bit more open to going for it, if you will, as opposed to just sitting back for a point. I don't think we did sit back for a point on Tuesday. I agree with Tom. I think a point in the end was a good result on the way that the game went. They did have their chances and played pretty well. We knew that they would. They were on a reasonably good run, other than that one defeat they'd had against Swansea. So it was a tough game. I think I agree again with Tom. I think there's a lot of other sides down the bottom that Leeds and Sheffield United still have to play. And there's going to be quite a few twists and turns between now and the 3rd of May.
Yeah, you can say that again. I'm not entirely sure my nervous system's going to be able to cope with that. Going back to the game itself then, Tom, one of the immediate debates that we had in our group chat following the game was whether or not Burnley fell foul of, which is Camp Natalie, by the way, whether Burnley fell foul of their inability at times this season to be able to break down a stubborn and physical defensive side. And if we'd have had more ruthless strikers, or a better conversion rate maybe up front, particularly thinking about a couple of the chances that Fleming had in the first half, we would have won that game irrespective of Derby's performance. Or Camp Robbie, actually Derby were too good for us, did a job on us, and no other team would have been able to break down that performance. Where do you stand with that, and what's the merits of each argument?
I think it's more the latter than the former in this instance. I know that given we've had so many 0-0s this season, it's kind of easy to see it as, there's another one where we've been too passive and we've let 2 points slip. But if you compare that to the home game against Derby, we've got loads of the ball, we're not really doing anything with it in the home game, whereas at Pride Park it was more that we had to do a lot more defending. We saw a lot less of the ball, we had a lot less time on the ball. It was a different kind of game, and you didn't come off that game with the feeling that we've just thrown 2 points away there. I mean, we had, like you say, Fleming had a couple of good chances in the first 20 minutes. That one where he made it himself, a brilliant touch to take it out of the sky, and then shot was just a bit too close to the keeper, but he did really well, so you can't really fault him there. The one where we knew had kind of a carbon copy of the goal against Coventry, where the centre half and the keeper got mixed up and he just couldn't quite lift it on target. But I wouldn't say we created loads and we were missing sitters or anything like that. So it doesn't really feel like it was a fault of the strikers, not having a striker. It didn't really feel like that. I think it was, like I said, it was a combination of playing away at a team who's scrapping for every point, playing it on a pitch that wasn't conducive to playing good attacking football. But I mean, I've been to plenty of 0-0s this season where I've come off really frustrated because it's felt like we've been happy with a point when it was really there to be won if we'd kicked on. And I thought it was actually quite encouraging to see that he was willing, as Dave was saying earlier, to make that change and to get another striker on.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't work out because he got the injury so soon after, and his options are pretty limited now in terms of centre forwards to bring on. But I thought that was encouraging, to be honest. I mean, the Portsmouth game was one of the most frustrating for me this season. Portsmouth away, we just had that game against Leeds at home where we played for a 0-0 at home, and you think, okay, it's annoying to not play for the win at home, but you can understand Leeds are a good side, etc. It wasn't a bad point in the circumstances. It was really irritating, but it didn't feel like that against Derby. It was a game where, as I say, we had to fight for that point, and we did well to get it in the end. So, yeah, I'd definitely lean more on the side of saying it was a good point, and it didn't really feel like some of those ones were thrown away earlier in the season.
Okay, good stuff. Dave, anything that you want to add to the end of that summary of that Derby game before we wrap up and start thinking about Norwich?
No, it's just amazing that the way that the tables panned out, and you look at it, 3 teams effectively on 85 points each. United obviously had the 2 points deducted, but to be where we are at this stage of the season, all 3 teams 85 points. Although we've only lost twice, Leeds have lost 4, Sheffield United have lost 8 games, but we're all there effectively on the same points. And it'd be interesting to see at the end of the season whether it is that 2-point deduction that effectively is the difference that why Sheffield United lose out.
Well, I know my views are very clear on this. If you break the rules, then that would be a suitable punishment. But you know what? That's one for another podcast.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's
Yeah.
go into that for now. Excellent. Well, let's wrap up then that analysis of that derby game, and let's move on to look at Norwich. Okay, Dave. Turf Moor, Friday night, under the lights. What dreams are made of? Norwich City, the Canaries are coming to town. Why don't you kick us off our preview of this game, please, with a couple of stats?
This will be just the 49th competitive match, home or away, between Burnley and Norwich City, with the majority of the previous 48 games, 27 in fact, having taken place since the turn of the millennium. Our paths did cross in the 1930s, as well as during the 1970s, and we even met them in a 2-legged League Cup tie in the 1987-88 season, with them as a top-flight team, Burnley in Division 4, with the Clarets only narrowly failing to go through, losing 2-1 on aggregate. For a while, either side of the pandemic, and also during it, Norwich City yo-yoed between the Championship and top flight, managing to go up as champions twice in 2018-19 and 2020/21, but only being able to finish rock bottom of the Premier League. However, now that their parachute payments have ended, they seem to have settled back into Championship level once more.
Excellent stuff. So shall we move straight on to our No Name Never Remembers memory match, please? Because we'll discuss with Tom what he thinks about his Norwich game, but you've got a cracker for us this game.
Yeah, I found a good one, more by chance, but when I was looking through it, I thought, yes, I picked the right match for this one. Following promotion to the second tier in May 2000, Burnley fans enjoyed some memorable matches at Turf Moor, as we played several clubs we haven't faced for a while. Norwich City were the visitors to Turf Moor on the 21st of November 2000, and Stan Ternant's Clarets were looking to continue their good recent form, which had taken us up to 8th in the prior to this match. The club's very first £1 million signing, Ian Moore, was on the bench and will be introduced later in the game for his Burnley debut. Also in the Norwich City field that day was the current Burnley manager, Scott Walker, who was just 20 years of age and was spending a couple of months on loan from Charlton Athletic. This was the first of 5 appearances he made against Burnley. This one for Norwich City, 3 for West Ham, and then 1 for Fulham. The first half was goalless, but only because of a rare penalty miss from the Paddy and Predator Andy Payton, whose spot kick was well saved by Andy Marshall. But the Clarets came roaring back in the second half with a couple of well-taken headers. First of all by Andy Payton from Paul Weller's right-wing cross after 56 minutes, and then 10 minutes later, Mickey Mellon's corner found skipper Steve Davis, who powered in another header to double our advantage. It stayed that way, the final score being Burnley 2, Norwich 0. Victory lifted us up to 4th in the table, and although we couldn't quite keep up that level of momentum for the rest of the season, we did finish a very creditable 7th, just out of playoff places.
Excellent stuff. I don't suppose you have to hand that you can upload to the chat box the picture that you've got of Scott Parker, have you, in that game? You've put it in our script, and it's an absolute beauty.
Well, now you're putting me on the spot, aren't you? I'll see whether I can.
I'm going to go to Tom and talk about the derby game while you have a quick look for that, and we can also share it. Tom, a tricky game, I think, for us on Friday night. What's your overriding thoughts on how you think it's going to go?
Pretty confident, to be honest. I touched on it earlier. I don't think Norwich are in the best form. The way the game went at Carrow Road gives me a bit of hope as well. They obviously started like house on fire ahead after a few minutes, and we looked all over the shop, to be honest, and yet we still somehow came out with a win. So if we can win playing like that one, we caught them at a time when they were playing fairly well. You'd like to think we've got a good chance now while they're not playing so well, and we've got a lot more to play for. I suppose the only thing that would worry me would be that Josh Sargent looks like he's in really good form at the minute. He's scoring a lot of goals. He's a focal point for them. So I'd be slightly worried about that. And of course, if they've got a goal source, and we know that if we concede the first goal, then we can sometimes struggle to get back on top. Although having said that, we came from behind last Saturday against Coventry to win. So yeah, I'd say I'm fairly confident. I think if we get the first goal, I don't think we've got too much to worry about. The fact that these went to Plymouth last week and got beat, I mean, if you're getting beat there, then you'd like to think that there's a good chance you'll get beat at Turf Moor as well. It's a big opportunity for us, given that we play before Sheffield United and Leeds, go back top with a win, and we really put the pressure on, and we've seen already in the last few games that both Sheffield United and Leeds are not handling the pressure at the top as well as we are. I think that's fair to say. Granted, we're coming up from a lower position in the table, and they're trying to hang on. But I would say if we win this one, it's going to be big, not just for our place in the table, but psychologically for those two as well. Albeit they've got easier games, but yeah, I'd say I'm fairly confident. The way we're playing at the minute, we've got goals in us. We're still not conceding, even though we've got a bit more of a potent goal threat. So I'd like to think that we're the favourites very much for this one.
Yeah, and just picking up on those fixtures for those who've not yet had a look at the fixture list. Leeds have got a home tie, the lunchtime kickoff 12:30 on Saturday at home to Preston. Cannot anticipate Preston doing us any favours, but there you go. And Sheffield United have got, I would say, potentially a tricky fixture away at Plymouth Argyle. That's also 12 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. So yeah, pressure is all on them. Dave, you found the picture. There you go. For those of you watching this on our YouTube channel, those who are listening on podcasts, tough. Head over to YouTube, and you're missing out on a spectacular picture of Scott Parker's debut there when he played against Norwich, which is a delight to behold. Thank you, Dave. There you go. I put you on the spot and you delivered. What were you whinging for? It's terrible. You want to carry on, please, and give us your next couple of stats, please?
Yeah, among the players who've represented both Burnley and Norwich City are Mike Phelan, Roger Hansbury, Wayne Biggins, Adi Akinbayi, Jason Shackle and Robbie Brady. In addition, Ashley Barnsbury joined Burnley from Norwich for a second spell during the transfer window. Nathan Redmond was a Norwich City player from 2013 to 2016, and Aaron Ramsey spent the first half of the 2022-23 season on loan at Carrow Road from Aston Villa, before his time there was cut short by injury. Between 2006 and 2019, Burnley registered 6 consecutive home wins against Norwich City. But since then, there's been a mix of results at Turf Moor, with the Canaries coming out on top by a 2-1 scoreline in an FA Cup fourth round tie in January 2020, followed by a goalless draw in the Premier League in October 2021. And most recently of all, a narrow 1-0 home win for the Clarets in the Championship in October 2022.
Excellent stuff. Okay. Tom, bringing you in now. What do you think from this is becoming quite an easy question to answer given the consistency that Scott Parker has been adopting to his team selection. But what do you think from a personnel perspective he'll go for on Friday night?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the only kind of question mark that we've had in the last couple of weeks has been Fleming or Foster, and obviously that one's been decided now. So I don't know if there'll be the only thing I could think that he might change would be he took Laurent off for Foster, didn't he, away at Derby, and I do wonder if he thinks maybe you don't need Laurent. Is it Laurent?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Come
know.
on. When do I ever know how to pronounce somebody's name? What are you asking me for?
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. Laurent. Anyway, him, that bloke. Whether he might think we don't need that much protection in the midfield, but then who'd you put in? You'd probably have to put Barnes in now. Foster's out, so I think he'll go same team, and then maybe if we need a goal with 20 minutes, then you take Laurent off and put Barnes on or whatever. But I think, to be honest, I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of Laurent in terms of him as a player, but I think we look better when he's playing. I think the midfield's got the best balance when it's Cullen and Lawrence getting and Brownhill in front. That's Brownhill's best position, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he's just got Fleming up front. Anthony and Edwards are picking themselves every week now, and the defences too. So, yeah, no need to change anything. If we can avoid injuries between now and the end of the season, I wouldn't see any reason to change anything really in that team.
Okay. What do you have any concerns at all, or what are your thoughts on the lack of game time that Benson, Sarmiento, Koleosho are getting when we are desperately in need of a goal. We haven't seen him use those substitutes that well yet. Is that something that you would like to see him do, or are you all right with the balance?
To be honest, I would say Anthony and Edwards have proven that they're a lot better than those three, especially Koleosho. He doesn't offer us anything really, does he? On or off? I think off the ball he works hard, but if you need a goal, you're not going to take off Anthony or Edwards and bring Koleosho on, because it's Anthony and Edwards that are going to get you the goals or get you the assists. And it's the same for Sarmiento. He come on against Coventry and worked hard, didn't he? Ran about, but there was that one where he was through and he just slipped and fell on his arse, and that summed it up really. It's just that there's a big drop off, I think, from Edwards and Anthony and then the other three. Perhaps not Benson, but then he's made a glass into. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we don't want to be risking that. Dave, okay, let's hand back to you then for one final stat, which is our quick results overview for this fixture, please.
Yeah, you may have picked up on this already from some of the other stats earlier in the show, but Burnley have a very strong past home record against the Canaries. Our home stats look something like this: played 24, won 17, drawn 5 and lost 2. Burnley have scored 46 goals and conceded just 17.
Good stuff. Well, listeners, as you know, we tell you this every single week. Dave maintains a spectacular bank of Burnley stats and facts, which you do have access to as well. Dave has created a page where you can go and have a nosy around and find out everything you need to know about your favourite football team. Those of you who are watching via our YouTube channel, you can see the graphic on screen. But for Dave, for those of us listening via YouTube provider, please tell them how they can access your stats bank, please.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Natalie, I didn't only ever do this for myself. I did decide to share it to other people as well. And there is a helpful link website people can go to. The short link is bit.ly and then / all in uppercase Burnley Stats QL. So it's bit.ly/Burnley Stats QL.
That's fine. You might have only started this for yourself, Dave, but you've got to share the love with the other statisticians out there. There are many of them who share your love for all of these things. Okay, we are going to finish off, please, with a little bit of a makeshift referee issue. You did present and prepare in our script a brilliant referee summary, and then rather rudely, right as we're about to go into the studio to record this, they've changed the referee. So Dave has kindly agreed to wing it, which those of you who've known Dave as long as you all will know that does not come comfortable to him. Dave is not the kind of person who likes to wing it. He's a statistician. He likes things to be proper. But bless him, he has decided to give this a go and to give us a summary of the new referee from his database we've just described. So Dave, off you go. Wing it.
Yeah, well, I prepared all the information about Robert Jones, but apparently he was out in Spain, so they've realised that it was not a good idea to get back to Burnley for a Friday night game. So we've got a new referee. We've got Tony Harrington of Hartlepool, and it's 7 previous Burnley games he's taken charge of. We've had 2 wins, there's been 2 draws and 3 defeats. Although the wins we've had were longer ago. They were in 2013 and 2014. So it's not good from that point of view. He was the referee early this season. He's been referee once already this season. That was for the home game against Blackburn Rovers. That was a 1-1 draw. And he did send a Blackburn player off in that game. In terms of total red cards, that was the only one. But yellow cards, he's booked 11 Burnley players, 15 opposition players. And we'll be hoping to get back to winning ways with Tony Harrington in charge on Friday evening.
That we will. Okay, on the spot, wrapping it up. Tom, score prediction, please.
2-0.
Okay. And what about Leeds and Sheffield United?
They'll both win. Reverse psychology.
Excellent. So it's going to be as you were. That's fine. That I like. Dave, you on the spot, please. Firstly, score prediction for Burnley.
Burnley are going to win, but I think it'll be close again. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win.
And Leeds and Sheffield United?
Yeah, I think I agree with Tom. I think they might both win this weekend. I think with the games they've got, it might be tight at the top, might be 3 wins and keeping the pressure on the last 4 games. But from our point of view, that's no bad thing. A 2-point gap with 4 games to go is better than a 2-point gap with 5 games to go. So,
where's your sense of adventure, you two? Honestly, it's ridiculous. My score prediction, I'm going to say it's going to be 3-0 to Burnley. I think it's going to be a bit of a goal fest. I'm going to say that both Leeds United and Sheffield United drop points and they both draw. That's going to be my prediction. Listeners, you know the drill by now. Please, we want score predictions for you, not just from the Clarets game, but for all 3 of the automatic promotion contenders. Again, those of you watching on YouTube, please drop your comments in the comment section below. And while you're there, turn on your subscription and your notifications so you never miss us. And anybody listening via our podcast channel, please just get hold of us in any of the social media channels. Anything you want to, just look for @NoneAndEver and you will find us. My thanks as ever go to my colleagues Dave and Tom for joining me on this week's preview show and making this episode possible. But finally, to you, the listeners, for downloading and listening to this episode. Your support is very much appreciated and we would not be here without you. We will be back after the weekend with a look back on that Norwich game, and we'll just keep an eye out for another preview show because the games are coming thick and fast. If you haven't turned on subscribe and notify, please do now. If not, keep an eye on social media and we'll let you know when your next episode is due to land. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the Known and Never podcast. Until next time. The Known and Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting knownandnever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.